Okay. Prof, please use the mic. Use the microphone.
The MC.
Yeah, you.
Oh, and I have to introduce myself also. Yeah. Anyway, I think they know the flow of this the seminar today. Right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our monthly Amseru seminar. Let us start our seminar program with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha. Alhamdulillah. إياك نعبد ونستعين صراط المستقيم صراط Right. The flow of seminar today is that our HOD, head of the department, will give short welcoming remarks, followed by being MC, myself will introduce our honorable speaker, Dr. Lo. Few words. I cannot read his CV, just summary in a minute. And after that, I will pass this floor to Dr. Lu to share his outstanding achievement on the new technology. And he will share his findings, everything, and followed by, we will end up with Q&A session. Is it okay, Dr. Lu? Yeah. All right. Thank you. If so, let us invite our Honorable HOD, Dr. Zahirani, to give his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Prof. Malik. Sorry, I have to change places because of the echo. Echo. So thank you, Dr. Loh, for your willingness to come again to our faculty. And I would like to welcome Dr. Loh and the team. I was informed that you already had your breakfast. Yeah. Okay, so it's compulsory to have second breakfast after the webinar. We from department are very delighted to have you and your team with us today to deliver the webinar. A very interesting topic on the production of oxygen from aqueous water using the principle of induced current. Recently, I think you came here 2 months ago and you give us a teaser about your project. I think some of us cannot sleep, thinking about it, especially Prof. Malik. When he came to me, he always talk about it. So I said, we have to wait for today. So he have a lot of questions for you. So you need to be prepared mentally and physically. So I think I just want to say thank you, and also to Amseru for coordinating this seminar. I hope it will be beneficial for everyone. Some of our members is online. This is the first time we try to have hybrid session, so a little bit, kelang kabut. For that, I apologize. So I think that's it, Prof. Malik. I return back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, our Judy Zairani. All right. Let me introduce our speaker today, Dr. Loh. As I said, I will not read his CV, just summarize it, because I know him since long, so that I can recall some of the things from there. All right, I start with his tertiary education. Before that, I just escaped. He graduated from Tar College on materials engineering, and then he went to UK to pursue his master's in University of Manchester, on also materials, ceramic and metallic materials, followed by his PhD degree from the same university, but on the chemical processing materials, right? Yeah, chemical process, I can recall these things. So that is his educational background. And after that, he started his first journey with one semiconductor industry in Singapore. From there, he joined with University of Malaya. That time I was there. I welcome him, still I remember. I welcome him in University of Malaya. So after that, he was very keen to start up the entrepreneur journey. So that's what I observed since then. So basically, all of a sudden he just quit from University of Malaya and start up a business with the name of IOP, IOP Specialist Interior Berhad. And product is relevant to our materials engineering, so iron oxide powder, magnetic material powder, things like this. So, and he's a very successful businessman and also entrepreneur person. The reason why I'm saying is that in principle, or in the principle of entrepreneurship, you must have the business wing and also the R&D wing. So he's doing both. He's doing both concurrently, basically. So therefore, even a few years back, I approached to him for R&D facilities. He said, "It's welcome. I have some R&D facilities." So that is the basically the background of this today's technology that he managed to come out with. So from his R&D, he has been doing some other things. Along with this, he come out with this recently, the oxygen production using the new approach, new technology. That what he is going to share. And on top of that, he has some other also activities and achievement, right, award, and also members of the several professional bodies, including IIUM UK, Chartered Engineers. And at the same time, he also published, many research articles, very interesting. Being the entrepreneur person or business person, he's also publishing and disseminating his findings and outcomes with others in the globe. So that is very basically interesting. So I don't want to read that, probably may contact with him directly. So at a glance, what I can say that he is a very dynamic person, both in entrepreneur and R&D. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Low to deliver his seminar today. Please, floor is yours. Thank you. Dr. Low.
Today I want to present a topic and which is a very important topic for the human being, not just in engineering. So because I discovered that oxygen can be produced naturally in the atmosphere since the ancient time and before all life begins. So my topic today is the production of oxygen from aqueous water, the principle of induced current. Myself is King On, and my highest education is a PhD from the University of Manchester, UK. I graduated in the year of 1999. Presently, I'm the managing director and founder of IOP Specialist Gombak, the high technology latest company in Malaysia. We engage in production of magnetic materials, iron oxide pigment, carbon black pigment, materials recycling, and many others. My company and myself, we have 11 patents granted worldwide. Those mainly in the production of iron oxide pigments and also metallic sponge iron. Okay, the content of the presentation will be separated into a few sections. And the first one will be from the production of oxygen from aqueous water. So the name aqueous water is using because not all water can produce oxygen, but only oxygen in the form of aqueous. And this is very important that in the atmosphere, where the ambient air contains moisture, which is the form of aqueous water. However, if the ambient air water is not aqueous form, cannot produce oxygen. Example, when the temperature the freezing point, then when the atmosphere temperature below the freezing point, water cannot produce oxygen, and it will harmful to the ecological system. After I discovered the oxygen that can be produced from the atmosphere in the ambient air, the oxygen that produced from the aqueous water actually has property different from the normal the normal oxygen in the ambient air. And these properties of the oxygen that are discovered obey the Einstein's special relativity. And sections already published worldwide. And there I just make seminar from all the guests here. So after this, I will discuss about some applications, not just the discovery, that how the presentation, how the discovery will benefit and also benefit engineering field of human. So perhaps that a lot of people will discuss about whether in this world we have egg first or we have chicken. So which came first? Always debate, and there is no ending and no decision on it. Similarly, also to the photosynthesis of the plants. So whether or not our Earth have plants first or we have photosynthesis first, so that oxygen can be produced. It is always a very hot debate topic. Today, I hope my presentation the answer. So the time that our atmosphere can accumulate oxygen size, we call it as great oxygenation event. In that only great oxygenation event starts, then only our Earth in the atmosphere starts to accumulate oxygen. So it was around 2.3 billion years ago, and the scientists called Gombak published it, and is already widely acceptable in the science. And only around 2.3 billion years ago, our atmosphere starts to accumulate oxygen. However, a lot of scientists found oxygen earlier than this 2.3 years ago. Therefore, a lot of debate among themselves whether oxygen starts only from the great oxygenation event or actually before the great oxygenation event, oxygen already occurred in the atmosphere. So this scientist comes we say that oxygen start to accumulate because scientists found some kinds of bacteria called cyanobacteria, and this cyanobacteria can live without oxygen. The scientists believe in, they believe like that, and because these bacteria have chloroplasts perform photosynthesis, so they believe that oxygen starts to accumulate because of these kinds of bacteria in the atmosphere, and they actually live in the ocean. However, group of scientists they don't agree because they found oxygen before the great oxygenation event. Not just the cyanobacteria can exist, but before they already got oxygen. Therefore, they don't believe. Because they found mineral oxide or meteorites that drops from the space. And this material drops from the space far before the great oxygenation event. Hence, no conclusion can draw out if we talk about whether photosynthesis first or the plants first or which one first. Very hard to conclude. Now I try to explain using my new discovery, okay? Whether the photosynthesis first or the plants first. And I found a new process. I want to ignore all these, the past plants first or photosynthesis. But I discover oxygen can be produced from water. Once our Earth has water and it can evaporated to the atmosphere, oxygen production already started. So how the oxygen can be produced from water? It is because of the principle of induced current. So what is induced current principle? Our natural world there. Example like during lightning day at the cloud got lightning. This happened far before the great oxygenation events. The formations of the earth, our earth already got these kinds of phenomena. And whenever the cloud is moving, there is a force to bring the cloud to move. And our earth has Earth's magnetic field. Therefore, when cloud move, pass through the magnetic field, be electron. And when more and more electrons are to be produced, lightning can happen. By this way, the principle of induced current naturally it can be a seen phenomenon. So for these principles, actually almost many people they can feel, and that our lives, not only human but also all other things, actually is water lightning. But no people can explain why. But as things that our lives relate to water lightning. So I discovered general. This is a final the overall equilibrium, that if I have two molecules of water, and if molecules of water can successfully capture 4 electrons from the principle of induced current from the magnetic field of the earth, this water 2 molecule associate 1 molecule of oxygen, and also 4 hydrogen electron pairs. And this hydrogen electron pairs is very important, and it will constitute our discussions today, and very important to the human being. And this is the overall equilibrium that I discovered and I found, and I will prove it, and I will try to stick to all that people can understand. And I call this process as a magnetosynthesis process, because this process using magnetic field. And for example, like if like photosynthesis is using light from the sun, or photosynthesis. So I tell this process as magnetosynthesis, because such process uses magnetic. Now I start to and if anybody interested to know more about how I derive, you can read all my publications. I have more than 4 papers published about this method. So if I have an electron, I make from the principle of induced current from the magnetic field. Because of the electron is a negatively charged particle, so it will then be adhered to the positively charged ion of hydrogen. So once it is successfully attracted to the ion of hydrogen, it will pair up to form the hydrogen electron pair. But their bonding is metastable. Alright, it's metastable. So this hydrogen electron pairs formation will successful when there is of induced current. And this process, we that in these terms, ion of hydroxyl is becoming active, the system of water. So how the oxygen can be produced relies on the excessive ion of hydroxyl. So because of the principle of Lie material, when the system is disturbed, and when the ion of hydroxyl becomes excessive, it will dissociate, and it is excessive, and it will form oxygen and water again, that means the equilibrium will be the left, according to the principle of activity. And magnetosynthesis process becomes successful. So when I have moving aqueous water, and if I have the magnetic field and I use magnetite powder to construct the magnetic field in my experiment, I can form electron because of the principle of current. And such formations of the electrons will make the magnetosynthesis process successful. Alright, very simple. It's just like secondary teacher can teach. Okay? So I make a container and I fill up the container with magnetite powder. Very simple in my experiment. Okay? So that I can create a field of magnetic field. And this magnetic field is just like similar to the magnetic field of the Earth. I use magnetite powder because the Earth is abundant with the iron ore and a lot of magnetic, it is of the similar strength. Right? And then I make the water to flow inside the magnetic field and flow out the magnetic field. I collect water for analysis. So first, my objective, I want to show that oxygen can be produced. I must produce the water with low dissolved oxygen content. The past few hundred years, scientists were not able to discover that oxygen can be produced from the water because of this method. And water initially, if I don't process the water before the experiment, the experiment couldn't be successful. Because water, the characteristics is it will absorb oxygen 100%, which is about 9.9 part per million the water naturally. So if we use the water just like that for analysis, we couldn't find that water can produce. So I will accidentally find that filtration system, I can produce a kind of water relatively much lower dissolved oxygen. Means oxygen can dissolve in the water. But now I don't want oxygen to dissolve in the water. Then only when the water produce oxygen, I can check it. I can see it clearly. So how I produce water with low dissolved oxygen? First is I use a filtration systems and I use the tap water on it. Very simple. Every home we have tap water, and I will use a peritectic pump or just pass through or use the tap water. You can just flow into all kinds of filters. The pre-carbon and so on and so on. So after filtration by 4 filters, the filter water possess low dissolved oxygen. Later I will show the results. So I collect the filtered water with low dissolved oxygen, the experiment. Right? So this is the oxygenation experiment, how I perform and how I discover oxygen can be. So the low dissolved oxygen, I used it, I collected in the filtration system, collected, and then now after collection I use it again and I pump it just to the magnetic treatment. So when it passes through the magnetic equipment, the container, and I collect it, I go through like that way, and I collect the filter water, and now the filter water already got high dissolved oxygen. By this way, I discover oxygen is produced and contained in the water. Initially, this is only first cycle, one cycle. And then the oxygen content drastically increase just for one cycle. And I can repeat any cycle. And this is a natural process. So when the cloud moves and interruptedly the atmosphere, it can create a lot of oxygen. But just one cycle, you see, I can produce, like since the filter water from 100%, I can suppress it to 2. If I don't suppress the filter water, the dissolved oxygen level in the water, I couldn't discover that oxygen can be produced. So I suppress it to first, and then just one cycle to increase 48 in a very manner. And if the same filter water I just put outside and I test again after the first cycle, I can only see it increase only 1%. Hence, the magnetosynthesis process is successful. So you see, like initially I start with 32%, and for one cycle it increased to 48. For 2 cycles, 58, 69, 71, and so on until about 100 cycles, I can achieve 90%. And by this way, I conclude that oxygen can be produced from water very easily and very simple, just using the principle of induced current. And the theory I already showed to all about how the water can produce oxygen. So in this, I draw a diagram. So the oxygen content, if it is 32%, it is about like 3.2 m in the water. And after 10 cycles, it increased to about 8 ppm. Alright. And this is very simple, and I already published this paper in the very early stage. And I conclude that low dissolved oxygen filter water, I can make it. And I use it to show that the magnetosynthesis process can happen. So the high DO in water recorded in each oxygenation experiment, and this I achieved it. So number 3, when the dissolved oxygen of the water reaches saturation, it will escape to the environment, and this is by the Henry law. And my second paper, I will concentrate in it, and I found that oxygen that can be produced by the magnetosynthesis process has different property than the oxygen that collectively in the ambient air. And by this way, a lot of engineering benefits as well as health benefits can be drawn out, just because of the properties of the oxygen from the water is different. So along the first experiment, I found that the properties of the oxygen is something extraordinary. But for so many years I studied in chemistry, my teacher never say like this past 50 years. But however, when I studied the periodic table, I found that the mass of the oxygen actually a range. It is ranging differently in different materials, and scientists collectively refer it as low as 15.999.9998. So such a difference in the atomic mass is not coincidence. The difference in the atomic mass brings a benefit to the engineering, technology, as well as to the health of the human being. Okay. So the detail I will not discuss because it's a lot of things inside. But the important thing is mass of the oxygen ranges from a lower value, which is 15.999 until 15.9998. So when we look at the difference, which is 0.08, which is 40 of 8, are very small. But when we put inside the Einstein's special relativity theory, it is a huge energy difference. So I can conclude that after I study the table just now I present, low mass of oxygen usually come from the respiratory system, or which is in the carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, where the oxygen species in it is low value, low mass. However, when the oxygen from the water or from the lightning products in the periodic table, when scientists test the oxygen in the lightning products, example the nitrogen oxide, which is the mass of the oxygen is of the heaviest type. Alright. So my next topic will concentrate on the properties of the oxygen. And now I will give a chance to all to ask questions if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for enlightened talk, and especially on the new technology. We always looking forward the new technology for engineering application. Initially, yes, I was doubt that where to apply it. Whether we talk about oxygen or we talk about energy, so where to use it? Where is the application? Now, yes, we can see something that huge application. However, he did not mention it. Probably there are rooms for us to ask question so that we can know more about this application side here. With that, let us open the floor for Q&A. Please, he also welcomed and he's interested to sort of reciprocate with us. Therefore, I open the floor for any question, please.
Dr. Tao, I just want to know how long the oxygen can be retained in water.
After the oxygen produced from water, it can actually retain in it for very long unless an exchange process will occur. And this will constitute the next topic, how oxygen can escape the environment, and then exchange can happen when the atmospheric oxygen can transfer into the water. So when such a exchange process occur, then this type of oxygen that produced from water then be released to the environment, and the environmental oxygen will then be exchanged and put inside the water. And how long to it is when the oxygen level in the water is lower than the saturation, it will not be easy for exchange. However, when it is close to the saturation point, then exchange can happen easily. So the amazing of this water is not just the oxygen itself, but the hydrogen electron gas can make a lot of different field of engineering. And shortly, I will present. Alright.
Any other question, please, from the floor? Those who are online also, online mode. Yeah. Any question coming from there?
I would like to ask, you try using the product.
Thank you very much. So long as the water is in the aqueous state, oxygen will be produced. So irrespective of what is the source of the water,
Consequence, if we say that we take the source of water from, say, it's a dirty place, for instance. So what would be the consequences on the energy side, not this say oxygen generation. So one is oxygen generation, this energy. So what would be the consequences on the energy part? if we go with different sources of water. So in line with that question.
If there is different sources of the water, and when such a source making the water which is not in the aqueous state, oxygen cannot be produced. Therefore, this is very important. And I will tell an example if you want to listen. An example is the ozone depletion. Alright, all scientists, all people, they believe that the pollution causing the ozone depletion. Alright, so ozone depletions usually occur above the South Pole. And South Pole, it will not always have the ozone depletion. It will occur when there is very cold streams flow to the South Pole. And then when very cold stream flow to the South Pole, ozone depletion. People understand and know of this because of the aqueous water system. When the atmospheric temperature is too low, below the freezing point, all the aqueous water now no longer in the state of aqueous system. It will then become freeze off, frozen means. So such a frozen water in the atmosphere, meaning that the atmosphere contains no aqueous. Therefore, the atmosphere is not able to produce oxygen. Hence, it will cause the equilibrium between the oxygen not balanced. So in this matter, ozone layer is forced to degrade to form oxygen to save the life South Pole, so that the systems can become balanced. So this is in the macro view. Of course, but in the micro view, different water may contain different states of the water. So it depends. Alright. So if the water is not aqueous, example like if the water remain as H2O, cannot be dissociated, then oxygen also cannot be produced.
Thank you very much. Yes, any other questions, please? The floor. So again, another consequence with the same one, we were talking about the frozen part, freeze, ozone layer depletion, water is not aqueous. If say, for some means, the frozen water, evaporated, and from there, the new oxygen generated, will there be any depletion of the ozone layer or what? Because it is a natural process, as you mentioned. So through the evaporation of that frozen or ice, for example, ice.
As I mentioned, when there is aqueous water present in any way, not in the river, the atmosphere, or anywhere, aqueous water produce oxygen if the aqueous water is moving and it cuts through the magnetic field. That's it, so easy. So I don't understand if you have other meaning.
That's I was trying to say, forget about the aqueous, but still, if I take the ice, for instance, because it is aqueous in a solid state, now somehow I evaporate it through the evaporation process. Then will there be any process of photosynthesis over there, and then produce oxygen? That was my curiosity, basically. So since you stick on this aqueous, so we have to believe it, we have to follow it. All right. Another question, please. So how about the application, especially in the energy sector? Can you please share with us?
Yes.
Can you give us some clue? Yeah, please.
The application I will share with all after the second presentation, because the properties of the oxygen is very important, and the applications of the hydrogen electron is very important. After you understand, then only I can share with you what are the future applications in the healthcare systems, very important. And then only to the engineering application, also very important.
Part of presentation
After
in another session.
okay.
It's okay, no question.
After office.
Let's sort of come out with the application. That's fine. So far, have you done any sort of tests that sort of demonstrate that there's a huge amount of energy over there? Have you done any tests? You have some test result?
Yes.
No, I don't want you to present here. Just we are asking.
Yes,
Have you
yes.
done or not?
Yes.
That will give us more satisfaction. At least more satisfaction.
I will be
Yeah.
see something.
Okay. Oh, you have done, huh?
Yes.
So, and then for that, you also trying to bring that Einstein theory, all those things.
Yes.
Yeah, because from the periodic table just now you mentioned that the oxygen mass range is very low, but it has a great impact when we apply it in the Einstein theory, right? So that it will be more interesting to see in near future probably. No question? If no question, I think that's all. Thank you very much for your very wonderful presentation with the new idea, new technology.
Prof, second part.
Second part.
After this.
So no need break.
No need break.
So okay, continue, please.
So I will continue to the second part of my presentation. This second part of the presentation concentrate the properties of the oxygen that I can collect from the aqueous water, the principle of induced current. So how I carry out my experiment sequence, I will tell here. So first, I shows that the oxygen can be free off from water in the earlier section. Then, after this, I found that in this new section, I found that the properties of this oxygen has higher oxidative power and higher mass. Alright, and how I test it? And this higher oxidative power and higher mass is compared to those average in the ambient air. I think that in the ambient air, oxygen are not all of low oxidative power or lower mass, not all, but they also contain higher mass and higher oxidative power. So, but they are collectively in a mixture. Those are from the photosynthesis, are of the lower oxidative power and low mass. Those are from the water, meaning that when the cloud is moving or wind is blowing, it will produce oxygen, and that oxygen is of a higher oxidative power and higher mass. So collectively, water is the highest. But then if you mix with the ambient air, so averagely, they are already become lower. Right? And I will present an analytical method. And I will present an hypothetical method where an energy is called gamma ray flashes. And I discovered, but I discovered the hypothetical model for the gamma ray flashes present because of the hydrogen electron test. And I will test this hypothetical method, and I give some example in the future work. Not this, otherwise it become rojak. So when you see in the future work, you will understand its application. So this is a new process where oxygen can be generated in the atmosphere, and I already published last year. And just few weeks ago, I published another paper which is about the oxygen properties. Alright, but I didn't put here. And this is only the generation of oxygen. Properties of oxygen also published. And I have two journal papers published about the properties. Because too many people request me, let them to publish. So the important facts discovered in part 2 is when oxygen is released from water, gamma ray flashes will also produce. And I will show you how it is. And it is very important for the application. These gamma ray flashes are responsible to modify the properties of oxygen made from aqueous water when compared to those made from photosynthesis. Such modification obey Einstein's special relativity theory. These are the possible reasons to explain the atomic mass of some elements and some are not. Meaning that not only oxygen, the periodic table, you will find it in a ring, but a few other elements. Example, hydrogen, nitrogen, helium, and carbon, and many others, a few, not many, about like more than 10 elements, and the rest they are in a value. But this about 10 elements, they are in the ring, make significant, modify the new world when you discover this theory. So what is Russia gamma ray flashes? So Russia gamma ray flashes was initially discovered by Dwyer and Smith when cosmic rays collide with the thunderous clouds. Okay? And this paper will explain the phenomenon. So why scientists want to study this? There is story. So when we remember about the atomic bomb, the Hiroshima and Nagasaki, in this place suffering from the atomic bomb, they have a lot of disease. Not just after the bombing process, they will cause them. They have like cancer or some unknown. Then scientists found that it's because of the gamma ray released from the nuclear released from the radioactive substance. So scientists start to be scared because the radioactive substance release the gamma ray and it will harmful the thing. So scientists are mercy. So we want to find out if not just the atomic bomb, perhaps in a natural way, there is gamma ray also happen, and when there is that place, the gamma, the people suffer. So scientists start to find out where in a natural way gamma ray can occur and can present. So finally, scientists found that gamma ray can happen when cosmic rays collide with the thunder clouds. Because of the advance in the technology, Boyer and Smith, they found this when the cosmic ray is the solar wind, comes from the sun, and it reached the Earth's surface by colliding with the thunder cloud. When it collides with the thunder cloud, massive of gamma ray release in the form of flashes, not just one way, but flashes. And because this happened naturally, the Earth, so we call it as the terrestrial gamma ray flashes. We call TGF. So after this, scientists also, because they find out this, Fowler and Smith find out from the thunderscloud when proton collide with the thunderscloud. Fowler and Smith also went to the Sahara Desert. The Sahara Desert, there is no thunderscloud, and also there is no cosmic ray, and yet they found terrestrial gamma ray flashes everywhere in the desert. They were shocked. They couldn't find out the reason why. And another scientist also find out everywhere in the ambient air after this. Because of the advances in the technology in detection of gamma ray, scientists found it everywhere in the atmosphere. Scientists until today, they couldn't able to conclude why gamma ray flashes can be produced in the atmosphere, and whether or not the cosmic ray collide with the thunderstorms, gamma rays also exist. Just that the gamma ray, if present in the atmosphere just like that, it has lower energy, but the properties are the same. Example, the frequency of the gamma ray is the same, the wavelength is the same. Alright, just the energy is different. So in the atmosphere, energy of the gamma ray is very low, as low as a few electrons. But in the case of the atomic bomb, gamma ray can be of billions of electrons. Hence, when the gamma rays of the billions of electrons work, it will bring disaster to things. But however, when gamma rays present in low energy, a few tens of electrons work, bring benefit to the human being as well as to the of science. Now I present what kinds of elements that their atomic mass are in a range. Oxygen, I already presented earlier, from 15.999 to 15.9997. Carbon, the range wider. Nitrogen, and these four elements are those elements present in living things. Therefore, all living things will apply to the state theory where oxygen can be produced and gamma ray will be produced to modify the mass of all these elements. Not just the elements that you present in living things, but also many others. And these are the few other elements. The periodic table has atomic mass in a range. Among a lot of elements, only these elements actually their mass are in a range. So very surprised to find that lithium and lead, normally used for energy storage, is in the list. So hence, for energy storage, it is very important. But I'm not very interested in the engineering applications. I am interested in that four elements: oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, and hydrogen, because I want to save life. Alright, so other elements are for the engineering applications. So the production of electrons in water using the magnetosynthesis, I already presented in the past, but I want to repeat so that you can remember again. So when I have water with low dissolved oxygen, and then to flow into a container with magnetic field, and when water come out, electron will then be enhanced. Oxygen also will be enhanced. There is also gamma ray. So consider I have a molecule of water in aqueous state. Alright, always aqueous state. And an ion of hydrogen and an ion of hydroxyl can be produced in equilibrium manner. And when I have electron that can produce from the principle of induced current, and because of the electron is a negatively charged particle, it will adhere to the ion of hydrogen. It will form the hydrogen electron pair if it is successful. Of course, it may not be always successful. Therefore, massive of electron is required. So that some of them can be successful, some of them are not. It depends on the equilibrium. Alright. So oxygen can be produced because of the excessive ion of hydroxyl. An ion of hydroxyl will dissociate and form oxygen and also water, so that the equilibrium of the aqueous water can return to a normal equilibrium state. So an overall equilibrium I can draw out molecules of water if it is successfully capture 4 mole of electron. It will produce 1 mole of oxygen gas and 4 mole of hydrogen electron pairs. So these two products is very important. Alright. So the result is the first chapter I presented only 10 cycles. And now I continue number 10 to number 25. So why I want to continue to make so many cycles? Because I want the oxygen that produced from the water can be enriched, and then so that the amount of the oxygen can be enriched close to the saturation point. So only when the number of oxygen as many as the saturation point, that exchange of the oxygen from the water and the atmosphere can happen because of the Newton third law. Alright. And when I look at it, the cycle number 11. So I measure the oxidative power of the water. I'm not just measure the dissolved oxygen value. And all the equipment I use, I display over there, and after this, you can have a. I also measure the oxidative power of the water. And I use an ORP meter, which is called the oxidative reduction potentiometer. So when I measure up to the point number 11, amazing happened. And the oxidative power drop drastically, but just for one time. You can see this is not for 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, but just for one time only, when it close to the saturation and when exchange start to occur. First time, and it drops drastically for one time. Okay, and this drop for one time is very important, so that discovered that the oxygen that enters from the atmosphere is lighter mass. How I quantify it? So these two places, you see, I say this one has a single deep drop characteristics, not double, not triple, and so on. Only one only. If it is more than one, my theory no longer exists. I will explain, of course, later on. And this happens only when the content of the oxygen goes to the saturation point. So once at cycle number 11, once the oxygen, the amount of the oxygen close to the saturation, oxygen from water will release to the environment. But because of the Newton's third law, exchange happen. Force will put inside the water matrix. Hence, oxygen from the ambient air enters to exchange. Once exchange, you can see after first exchange, continuations of the oxygen production occur, and those oxygen by this way allowed to sit inside the water, no longer need to exchange to the air, longer required. Therefore, only one time is called single step drop occur. And this is very interesting because only one time means once the oxygen from the ambient air enters, more vacancies in the water matrix occur, so that when extra oxygen can produce from the magnetosynthesis, no longer required to escape the environment but stays in the water. This is the reason I found that oxygen enters from the atmosphere as lighter mass, allow more vacancies present in the water, so that further oxygen generation from the magnetosynthesis can retain inside the following few cycles until another saturation occur. So when another saturation occur, similarly exchange occur again. Lighter mass of oxygen come inside the water, and then after this allow a few furthermore cycles magnetosynthesis, where oxygen can still retain in the water. So the result is, when I measure the water after the magnetosynthesis, after so many 5 cycles, oxidative power is 180. So if I just put the water outside the environment and it was not going through any magnetosynthesis, the oxidative power is 173 only. Right, so this shows that the water after magnetosynthesis process possess higher oxidative power than those are not exposed, those are not going to the magnetosynthesis. So now I want to for further discussions in the single step drop characteristics, so that you understand how I discover heavier mass. So this diagram I just take out from the previous diagram only, the circle one. This circle I just take out and I present over here. Okay, I present over. So at point A, the water active equilibrium. So when further oxygen that can produce from the magnetosynthesis will not able to retain in, and it will force to escape the environment by Henry law. But when the when the oxygen released to the environment because of the Newton's third law, a force to go out must have a force to come in. Oxygen exchange can occur. So it will force oxygen from the atmosphere enter the water system. Suddenly it drops. So this shows that those oxygen that enter from the ambient air, that's make the vacancies that occur again in the water, so that when more oxygen can be generated, it can stay on. No need to the environment anymore. So point B, C, D, E on a rising trend appeared new vacancy in water. This is the evidence of lighter mass oxygen atoms enters from ambient air. Then only more vacancy can produce. So the extra oxygen that produced from water can still stick in without the need to go out to the environment. Alright. So however, when point E is reached, saturation reach again, and oxygen, if produced from magnetosynthesis, forced to go out again. So it drop again. But it will drop only for one time. Because when the door open, heavier mass to go out, a lighter mass to come in, and lighter mass to come in, create vacancy for more oxygen to stay inside. In the case oxygen can produce from it. Alright. So this I discovered that oxygen made from water has higher mass, or else very hard to quantify and to foresee why oxygen has higher mass and out here. Alright. Consider if I have an oxygen molecule and it is used to oxidize some substance. This is the that I can do. So if I have the oxygen of higher mass, alright, perhaps I will produce a oxidative reaction with higher oxidative energy. Where this I already measured. Is a higher oxidative energy. So this kinds of oxidative process, I can give some examples are the respiration, combustion process, digestive process, and so on. So once if I use the oxygen, which is of a higher mass, for an oxidative process, it will produce higher energy, and the process will then be more successful. So example is the COVID-19 patients without oxygen, and this can help. So I can give them oxygen of higher mass, then I can save life. But I'm not doctor, no people believe.
You're engineer.
Yes, alright. So this compared to the Einstein's special relativity theory is obey the EMC. If I have a higher mass, I will produce higher energy from here. Alright. Now I talk about gamma ray. Gamma ray can be released when the nucleus is decayed. This is all the science students must learn in the secondary as well as in the A levels. Alright, very simple. So when a nucleus decay, not other things, but nucleus decay, gamma ray energy. However, Einstein never mentioned that the energy that released must be gamma ray. Only E equal to mc. Is what Einstein present in the past, 1925. Now I present because of the atomic bomb and won't happen, gamma ray can be produced. So if I can produce a gamma ray and I can give the new gamma ray, then the nucleus can gain mass. This is what I think on it, but it's actually occur and it's actually become real. So I present that when a nucleus can decay, gamma ray. But however, if I have a gamma ray available and I give it to a nucleus, the mass of a nucleus increase. And this is very logical. So since the mass and energy follow the principle of conversion, mass and energy, therefore I can draw the above conclusion. Follow the Einstein's special relativity. Mass and the energy can be interpermutable if I have the gamma ray. So how gamma ray flashes can be produced? Because of the hydrogen electron pairs. So now I wish all attendants pay attention on this definition. Gamma ray can be produced only by one way, when there is nucleus decay. So if I can show that there is nucleus decay, am I able to show that gamma ray can be produced? This is by definition, and the definition not made by me, made by other scientists, and this is acceptable worldwide. So therefore, my job is to show there is nucleus decay, and hence gamma ray can be produced. This is the reality why gamma ray flashes are available everywhere in the atmosphere, but no people aware. But scientists already draw the attention to electron. The Robbie and Smith, and also many other scientists, they mention, but they don't know why. But they feel when there is presence of electron, there will be presence of the gamma ray flashes. But they don't know what is the mechanism. Now I present. So the secret is the hydrogen electron pairs. How? Alright. So I present these mechanisms in pages. Very easy only. Okay, very easy, 3 pages. So first I want to tell all attendees here that the ion of hydrogen, okay, the ion of hydrogen is the only nucleus in the present science finding. Ion of hydrogen is called proton, and it is the only nucleus among so many elements. It is the nucleus of the hydrogen, meaning that this is the only nucleus doesn't have the neutron inside. Proton itself, the nucleus of hydrogen. When you look at your chemistry textbook, look at your periodic table, look at your physics books, all people aware, but they don't understand. This can apply here, that the ion of hydrogen is the proton, and it is the only nucleus doesn't have neutron inside it. And this is a clue. So you look at it. So if I have a proton or a nucleus of hydrogen or the ion of hydrogen, and when electron is produced, the principle of induced current, of course, the principle of induced current will not only produce only one of electron. Alright, it will produce massive of electron. So when it produces massive of electron, the secret lies on the size of the proton. It is not same size to the electron. Alright, it is very big compared to the electron, and hence when massive of electron produced by the principle of induced current, all the electron will attract to the surface of the proton, because the proton is a positively charged particle and electron is a negatively charged particle. But however, proton can only accept one electron. I will read only one only. But you see, massive of electron present when the principle of induced current is successful, right? So because of the size is so big, and the size is 1836 bigger than the size of one electron, and this is a clue. When the proton is so big, it will not just attract one electron, but it will attract many electrons. So when many electrons were attracted to the surface of the proton, and they will collide. Before the proton choose one electron, they will bang the face of the proton. But in the next moment, only one electron is allowed to bond with the proton on. So it's the first secret. Because of many electrons and because of the size of the proton is so big compared to the electron. Next moment, many electrons adhere face of the proton. So when these many electrons adhere to the face of the proton, you can see the mass of the proton, like the mass of the proton, because all adhere already. But next moment, the proton only choose one electron. It has no choice because this is a principle. Only choose one electron. However, only one electron allowed to pair to proton. Alright. Again, it is because of the size is 1830. This number 1830 not what I find out or what I discover. It is the mass ratio of proton. And very easy, you can find out this. Next moment, only one electron only allowed to stay on. Others, because they are negatively charged particles, they are repelled away from the face of the proton, and hence the mass of the proton drastically, because they repel away. So this is called nucleus decay. So when there is nucleus decay, gamma ray flashes, or simply gamma ray will be produced. But how many gamma ray can be produced depends on how many mass to use, or how many electrons to adhere to the space of the proton. The more the electron, perhaps the more the gamma ray flashes can be produced. Conclusion. The mass of oxygen is heavier because of the single big drop characteristics. I found it heavier. And why it is heavier? Because of the gamma ray flashes. So this oxidative power of the oxygen also higher than detecting. And this obey the Einstein's Special relativity. And higher mass, higher energy. So the gamma ray flashes in the water magnetar synthesis. I already proposed a mechanism that gamma ray can be produced by definition, and hence this is available. Now I use theory test other things, not just in water. Now water research almost completed for oxygen generated for oxygen. But I found that gamma ray phases, and this is important. And when the gamma ray phases can be produced, it can use make other elements, not just oxygen. Those are in the list or in the periodic table where the mass can be tailor-made and increase higher value or lower. I can tune it now. Alright, I can tune it. So example, I give one example and I ask Mr. Hua of my chemist to test. So if I have a fuel oil and the calorie value of the fuel oil is about 10,100 calorie per gram. So when Hua use it, the magnetosin this bottle container contain the magnetite powder. Please. And because the magnetosin this gamma ray phases can be produced, and when the gamma ray phases shine on the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen, those are the elements that constituted to the mass of our body or mass of the fuel oil. The fuel oil shows calorie value drastically just by going one cycle of the magnetosin. This shows that my theory works. And if I go to second cycle, increase again. Third cycle, again. But I never do more because I'm not interested in the engine application at this time. And I am interested in the of human being. Second example. I can make in situ of oxygen mammalia tissue. Mammalia tissue, I can treat hypoxia and anosmia disease. What is hypoxia and what is anosmia? I explain here. Then you will understand this is amazing. Okay? So there is scientists, they already concluded. Scientists. But down and a few of them. Okay? Scientists, they are not young scientists. They are medical doctor, and they have PhD, and they are already in the field of medical field, and they cannot solve the problem of, and they concluded like that way. So the case, the ambient air, about 21% oxygen. For the healthy mammalia tissue, the Dow say it should be 2% to 9%. They are doctor, I'm not. I don't know. They say percent to 9% oxygen. But however, because over the time and because of the smart function of our body systems, some tissue below 2%. And when this tissue below 2% oxygen, scientists call this phenomenon as hypoxia. So hypoxia tissue means that. And when below 2%, a lot of disease happen. And I can force this oxygen by themselves is more than 2%. So that disease can be removed in a natural way. Because I can force the oxygen release from the water molecule in the tissue. So in the case of anosmia, this doctor said if below 0.2 or 0% oxygen, the phenomenon is called anosmia. And what is hypoxia and anosmia disease? I tell you. So the hypoxia disease, example stroke. You see millions of people have stroke. Ischemia, some teeth, less than 2%, and it will cause a lot of disease. By example, the skin, a lot of things, inflammation, many pain, inflammation. Inflammation also occur in many other parts of the body. Growth of solid tumors. Any solid tumors, they are hypoxia tumors. Alright, so I cannot count finish all kinds of disease, but all kinds of disease, if I give them magnetic synthesis, I can increase 2% oxygen and more, their disease can be reduced. And I show you, we have examples, alright? So when I have anosmia disease, what the anosmia disease is the solid tumors burns cancer cell. Alright. Presently no medicine. Okay. Only by chemo, 20% can survive. Or tumor recurrence. Tumor recurrence means after we did surgery, the cancer cell, after some time, cell appear again and it spread. Therefore, it's called tumor recurrence. Now we look at it, it's very okay. This is very common, almost happen to all people. Alright. This uncle, Mr. D. He said he got eye cancer. He said, just like what I told you, if you go surgery, then if you go for therapy, 20% can survive. But not size defect. If size defect means more than 90%. Size is something that when you experiment, you will get the result same, definitely. Then only that phenomenon or that experiment is. So if you do the chemotherapy or what, 20%, I don't think it's size effect, but a lot of people, because they have no, I'm sad to say that. So Mr. D has eye cancer. He chose not to receive the medical way by surgery, by chemotherapy, think that he's already 70, that I don't want painful, so suffering, I don't want, I will die. But I let him drink my water, the water with the oxygen with heavy. Last time I haven't discovered the gamma ray flashes yet. I let him do. His eye, you see here, now can open up. Before that, eyes cannot open up, swollen. Cannot see. After about 2 years, drink water and use wash the eye, he can open the eye, but still cannot see. Glaucoma. He never died after so. And then I make a small device to him so that magnetosynthesis process can happen easily. So I make a small fan wings of the fan, and it can turn. Okay? When it turn, like officer, when it turn, magnetic. When magnetic is moving, I ask him close to the eye so that magnetic field can cut through the eye, so that its eye tissue can continue aqueous water and release oxygen by itself. And the glaucoma can be, glaucoma is one of the hypoxia. So after just 3 weeks, he told my staff, he returned to eyesight. Just after 6 very intensive magnetosis. So if anybody has the want to use anything, call me, call my staff, we will give for free. Anything, any support for free, 100%. And can email to me. And now I already present 2 examples of the application, but this is all related to the healthcare system. But in the engineering, there is just I'm not interested because I'm too busy right now and I want to see life. One, I give. Alright, and of course there is still much more information. So in the field of engineering, I can outline is example, I can replace photosynthesis, where the plants can also produce using the magnetosynthesis. That means in the photosynthesis, right? Lights containing photon, and it will force the chloroplast to work, produce food. I can use the gamma ray flashes, place the light or the photon. Really, it has the energy, and I can tune the energy by tuning the strength of the magnetic field. I can get the similar results, but I will not show here because project is not completed yet. Also, I can tailor-make medium net for the energy storage system. Also, solar energy. Perhaps one day I can use water to replace petrol for the car to move, thus using the gamma ray flashes, and I can produce a huge amount. Thank you very much. Listen to my presentation.
Thank you very much for your extensive presentation, especially the second part is more amazing really. What you mentioned, I agree with you. Yes, it's really amazing. Simple technology with a few examples, especially in the healthcare application and some engineering also. Right, with that, again, second round, floor open for Q&A. Any question, please, from the floor? Any question on the second part?
I ask what kind of magnetic
Good.
Yeah, I mean, say, what type of magnetic powder you use in your magnetosynthesis process?
The technology required people of induced current. Means if in a natural way, the cloud need to move thousands of miles. then it will generate electricity, and then it will be a form of lightning. So we need to produce as much as possible magnetic field so that it will replace the thousands of miles to move. It is not the strength of the magnetic field, but the number of magnetic field. So I use nanostructures iron powder. The iron powder is magnetized. When it is of nanostructures, it will produce billions of magnetic field in just a small place. So by this way, I can make billions of magnetic field alternating in just 1 second. So hence my iron oxide, we make it nanostructures. And such nanostructures can make possible by using the nanocarbon tube.
So this nano size iron powder, is it high purity iron powder or with any contamination? What is the purity level of that nano size iron powder? Purity level.
The technology required the iron oxide during the calcination process. Iron oxide can diffuse the nanotube so that when nanotube concern in just a small particle, it contains millions or thousands of iron oxide particles, the small part. So it is irrespective of whether the iron oxide is pure or not, but required the iron oxide can diffuse the in the nanotube.
So in your schematic diagram, the container that you have shown over there, so that the particle is inside the carbon nanotube, right? While the powder is flowing through the nanotube. Carbon. Any other type of nanotube can use apart from carbon? This one, the one you're using right now. Any other alternative or options?
So far, I use only the nano carbon tube. But if for engineering application, it will not just to the iron oxide, but can use other kinds of magnetic material so that the strength of the magnetic can be tuned and to achieve different applications. For healthcare applications, magnetite powder the best because magnetite powder is a very magnetic material. So the very magnetic has low cohesivity, and the magnetic field can be affected easily by the magnetic field of the earth. So as a human being, example like when I live in this, I need the magnetic field of this environment. If I live in a magnetic field of very strong magnetic field, perhaps I cannot live. So therefore, I cannot increase the magnetic field strength, but I can increase the number of magnetic field, and to make the magnetic field move, achieve the magnetosynthesis for treatment of mammalia tissue concern. But however, for engineering is different. For engineering, we need power. So when we need power, we may need perhaps a stronger magnetic field so that the gamma ray flashes that can be produced, they possess higher energy. So when it possesses higher energy, a lot of amazing can be obtained. Example, cars can run by water only, no need petrol anymore.
So how long will it take to go? Yeah, so now we see this fossil fuel is going to be exhausted. Alternative energy, not very good many places. If we can use water as a fuel, all right, I think it's clear. Any other question?
Prof, I have a question.
Yep.
I have two questions, and firstly, I want to appreciate you for your work. My first question is, as you said that you are suggesting your patient to use that fan, and I want to ask you if, as you said that during your process of magnetosynthesis, it releases gamma ray flash. Is there any side effect if a patient uses that for 1 year or 2 years? What should be the duration of using that?
The hypoxia disease as well as the anosmia disease, they will not occur in just one day. It is an accumulation where our body has insufficient of oxygen to sustain the normal operations of the body. What I mean is, this disease will not happen in just 1 day or 2 days, but in many days that no people aware. Similarly, if I want to reduce the hypoxia phenomenon or the hypoxia effect, cannot occur also in just 1 day or 2 days. The gentleman that I showed, Mr. Lee, he used for 3 weeks. The glaucoma can be treated. But before that, he already drank the electron water for 3 years and used the electron water to wash the swollen eye. Then only the eye can open. So the whole process, although it doesn't have the mini fan, but it already taken 3 years from a blind condition and return to good eye. Anybody can go to visit Mr. Day. He want to tell his story, he want to tell the world how he recovered. And therefore, I'm very busy now. I just go people only for free. So my answer is, we don't know how long. It depends on the conditions of the patient, and depends on whether the water they contain in the tissue aqueous state or not. So therefore, drinking a lot of water which is of good quality, very important. And whether the water is of good quality for health, not discuss here, or else people may think that I want to sell my water system. So I can only say drink good water. Healthy water is important, not expensive water. So if you have good water in your tissue is in the aqueous state, then you have the hope to recover. If it is not, all the water already hold by certain things, and it is not aqueous, it is of the molecular H2O, then this amazing magnetosynthesis cannot be recovered.
I think it's a clear, very clear answer. Any more question? If no question, then we are about to finish our session. In a conclusion, the very nice talk, good content. There are 2 parts. Although Dr. Low mentioned a few times less engineering application, but we can see there are, especially the fuel side, and also very simple theory. And Dr. Low presented in a very simple and systematic manner for our understanding. I believe everybody learned a lot and also gained knowledge, enhanced knowledge. And therefore, thank you very much. First of all, thanks to Dr. Low and your team, and thanks to those who are here with time and those who are via YouTube. Thank you all. If no other things,
Kita ada souvenir.
okay, then I just call upon our HOD, please. HOD, accompanied with our Amseru coordinator. He's our research unit coordinator. She is our research unit coordinator. Please present the token of appreciation to our speaker, Dr. Lu. Take photo. All right. Thank you very much. With that, let us end our session with Surah Asr. All right, see you again, inshallah. We have this seminar almost every month, if not alternative. Future also probably, we look for you. And you are here all the time. All right. Yeah. All right. Bye. See you.